The high warlords of the Krelak Dominion gathered in a room not meant for negotiation, but domination. It was called the Slaughter Table. 12 war chairs circled a scorched dais. Each chair was forged from the bones of defeated champions, lacquered in the blood of lesser species. Hanging from the vaulted ceiling were the banners of conquest, dozens of them, each torn from the ruins of a world that dared resist the Dominion. And now, Earth Banner was there too. Torn, burned, mocked, its blue and white shredded into a drape that hung limp beneath the skull of General Pierce, the Terran commander whose head had been sent back to Earth in a cryo box. A reminder, a message. Earth had been told, surrender or suffer. And now, in what must have been a final act of desperation, they sent a diplomat. He entered the room alone. The vault doors groaned open on steam-pressured pistons. The chamber fell silent. 12 alien warlords turned to face the entry, each a different breed of killer, each hunched forward, expecting a groveling Terran delegate, another weeping peace offer ready to trade sovereignty for survival. What they saw instead was a man. Tall, pale, no older than 30 by human years. Slim, clean, effortless. He wore a long black coat with high-collared diplomatic trim. His skin was porcelain. His hair, short, raven black, was immaculately cut. His boots didn't make a sound as he crossed the chamber floor. But his eyes carried something none of them could name. Silver, cold, and empty. He reached the dais, stopped, and looked up, not down, not up in fear, not up in reverence, but level, as though the monsters encircling him weren't worth the effort of flinching. A beat passed. The first to speak was Warlord Ruzar, whose skull mask was fused to his face after surviving an orbital flame barrage. He snorted. "This is it," he growled, mouth twitching. "This is what Earth sends after we butcher their legions." A low laugh rolled from Warlord Keozan, whose 4 tusks dripped with sacred war oil. "A twink? You send us a sexling in silks and think we'll yield? We are the Terran war gods." The other warlords chuckled, rasping, clicking, hissing in their various dialects. Not laughter born of joy, but that ugly kind of sadism that came before executions. The human remained silent. He placed a small crystal shard on the table's projection node. It lit instantly. Above the dais, a hologram bloomed, Earth's final offer. A ceasefire agreement, return of territories, reparation structures, amnesty deals, a full diplomatic accord. The laughter grew louder. Warlord Sadar sneered. "The same offer your last ambassador made, before we pulled his lungs out." Ruzar gestured to a spot on the floor, where a smear of old Terran blood still marked the concrete. "That was 3 weeks ago." Still, the man didn't flinch. He let them laugh. Let them breathe in their arrogance like smoke. Then, with slow deliberation, he reached into the inside of his coat. 12 rifles were raised instantly. Turret lasers snapped from the corners of the room. Shield powered up. Energy blades hummed. Warlords snarled, each remembering some Terran trick, some last-gasp suicide play. But the man moved slowly, calmly. What he pulled from his coat was not a weapon. It was a coin. Metallic. Dull. Barely the size of a soldier's badge. It caught the dim overhead lights just enough to show that its edges were worn by decades of use. He let it drop. The coin landed on the table with a sharp click. Then it began to glow. Crimson. Not red like Terran diplomacy. Not blue like Krelak war tech. But crimson, deep, furious, pulsing like a predator's heart under a blood moon. Ancient glyphs emerged across its surface. Alien runes that none of the newer warlords recognized. But 3 of them did, and they went dead silent. Warlord Sadar took a step back, eyes wide. His voice dropped to a whisper. "That insignia." Keozan leaned forward, disbelief cracking his voice. "That cannot be real. That was disbanded. Erased. The records." Ruzar just stayed until his breathing became shallow. The young man finally spoke. His voice was low, controlled, clean. "My name is Kalen Rowe," he said. "I'm not here to negotiate." And then he removed the coat. It fell in silence, pulled around his boots. Underneath, matte black combat mesh woven from Terran strike armor, kinetic reactive, triple insulated, laced with void threads. Twin sidearms sat holstered against his hips. The hilt of a monomolecular blade peeked from behind his right shoulder. A small microdrone orb clicked quietly on his back, alive with signal-seeking pulses. His arms were bare, tattooed with old, coded glyphs, the kind only ghosts wore. The holograms still flickered above him, casting warlight across his skin. "My offer was not Earth's," he said. "That was a courtesy. You spat on it." He raised his head, looked each warlord in the eye. "But Earth no longer speaks through diplomats." He reached down and picked up the insignia, turned it between his fingers. "You recognize this symbol," he continued. "You should." And there it was, a single word etched into the coin, glowing brighter now, pulsing in time with his voice. "Executioner." The chamber felt colder. "Impossible," Saddam muttered. "That branch was dismantled centuries ago, abolished after the Draka massacres." Kalen's voice turned sharper. "You bombed our refugee colonies. You enslaved our civilians. You aired the dismemberment of our surgeons and scientists across galactic channels." He loaded a round into his pistol. The click echoed louder than the war sirens once had. "And still you expected diplomacy." His eyes narrowed. "No one leaves this room alive." And then he drew. The first one died before he even rose from his seat. Kalen's pistol barked once, a sharp, clean blast. The slug drilled through Warlord Ruzar's eye socket, shattering bone and pulping the brain matter behind it in a single, devastating impact. The old war beast twitched, his fused skull mask splitting down the middle with a groan of ancient alloy. Then he collapsed sideways, twitching, his thick blood oozing into the cracks of the war table. Chaos ignited like wildfire. Warlord Kaozun roared, flipping the heavy table with one arm. It smashed into the ceiling with a screech of steel before crashing down, obscuring Kalen in a spray of smoke and debris. The other warlords moved to flank him, some drawing plasma scythes, others engaging their wrist-mounted kinetic shields. They thought he'd vanish in the smoke. Instead, he moved through it. A second shot rang out, low, deliberate. The bullet tore through Warlord Ferrex's throat, severing both arterial nodes in one smooth pass. Ferrex's death was quiet, gargling. He dropped forward, claws twitching. Kalen was already gone, slipping to the left, moving low. Kaozun swung his plasma axe. It passed through the air with a thunder crack, missing Kalen's head by inches. Kalen ducked, twisted, raised both arms. Bang! Bang! Two more warlords down. One took a slug to the femoral artery, collapsed shrieking as his alien blood sprayed the chamber wall in a luminous blue arc. The other caught the shot clean in the temple, his head snapping backward like a hinge before crashing to the floor. 4 down in 8 seconds. Kalen was still moving. He was faster than they could process, fluid, surgical, silent. Like a shadow turned solid. He weaved through the room in a dance of bullet trails and blade arcs. He used no cover. He needed none. His cover was motion. His protection was lethality. Warlord Nazal leapt at him with a shriek, his tri-blade staff spinning. Kalen caught the staff with his left hand mid-spin, twisted, let the weapon's own kinetic force carry it into Nazal's neck with a brutal crunch. Bone shattered. Nazal's body flopped backward, twitching violently. Kalen didn't look. He kept moving. The 6th Warlord tried to run. But Kalen threw a flash disc against the wall. It exploded in a strobe of ionized light, burning through the Warlord's vision cortex. The fleeing brute crashed into a support pillar, dazed, blind. Kalen stepped in. 1 shot. Hot. Done. 6 dead. The remaining 6 warlords regrouped on the other side of the chamber, shields raised, armor glowing. One of them, Warlord Threx, activated a localized gravity field, trying to crush Kalen under 9 GS of distortion. It hit. Kalen's knees buckled. The floor groaned, but his arm stayed steady. His pistol, still up. Bang. Threx's control node sparked. The gravity field shattered like glass. The warlord staggered, and Kalen shot again, this time straight through Threx's chin and into the brain stem. 7. Then Kaozun charged. Massive. Foaming. His plasma axe hissed with heat, carving steam through the air. Kalen sidestepped the first swing, ducked under the second, and drew his blade. It was a simple weapon, monomolecular edge, Terran make. No glowing parts, no exotic flourishes, just a purpose-made tool of murder, perfected by centuries of Earth's wars. He dragged it across Kaozun's ribs, cutting through wallplate and cartilage. Kaozun screamed, but turned, punching down with a thunderous haymaker. Kalen caught the arm, used the momentum, spun, and drove the blade straight into Kaozun's armpit, up through the joint, and into the beast's chest cavity. Kaozun gasped. Executioner, he choked. No, not again. Kalen twisted the blade, yanked it sideways, and tore half the chest open in one smooth rip. Kaozun fell. The chamber was hell now. Smoke rising, blood in puddles, walls scorched, echoes of gunfire still bouncing between support columns. 5 remained. They stood near the vault exit, eyes wide, panting. Their weapons shook in their hands. One of them, Sadar, pressed a comlink. Security, now, he barked. Vault breach, Terran, his. Kalen shot the comlink out of his hand. The entire left arm exploded at the elbow. Sadar screamed. Kalen advanced without a word. Warlord Rax lunged toward him, trying to buy time. The big brute tackled Kalen, slamming him into a support beam. Kalen hit hard. Blood dripped from his lip, but he smiled. Rax hesitated. Kalen planted both boots against the wall and launched upward, flipping over Rax's head. Mid-flip, he shot downward. The bullet entered at the base of Rax's skull and exited through his mouth. Rax collapsed. Kalen landed, reloaded, and kept walking. 3 warlords ran. They tried to activate emergency protocols, but the room was locked down. Kalen had already hacked the access nodes on entry. He turned a dial on his sidearm, switched ammo. He fired. The smart round split mid-flight into 3 sub-projectiles, tracking heat signatures. 3 shots, 3 screams, 3 deaths. The war room was a tomb now. 12 chairs, all empty. 12 corpses, still smoking. Kalen stood alone in the red-lit chamber, breathing slow. He scanned the room once, confirmed the dead. Then he walked to the center, where the insignia still pulsed. He knelt, picked it up, wiped the blood from its edge with his thumb. The glow didn't fade. It never faded. Kalen turned toward the vault door. He knew the entire station was on alert now. He could already hear the heavy footfalls of reinforcements pounding down the corridor. They thought they'd find a diplomat. They were about to meet their mistake. Kalen holstered his pistol, tightened his grip on the blade. Vault secured, he muttered into his MIC targets eliminated. Proceeding to Phase 2. Copy that, came a voice over comms. You've got 2 minutes before the next wave. Kalen stayed at the vault doors. I only need one. And he moved. The vault doors split open like a wound torn through steel. Kalen moved through them without hesitation. No pause, no breath. The red glow of warning lights pulsed across the corridor ahead, washing over his armor in violent strobe. Sirens howled behind the walls. The Krelak battle station, Orbit Bastion 14, was awake now. Awake and angry, but not prepared. Not for him. He sprinted low and fast through the corridor, boots thudding soundlessly across the anti-static flooring. From somewhere deep in the station's upper decks, turrets powered up, doors sealed, and defense teams scrambled into formation. But Kalen had already downloaded the station's full schematic. Every choke point, every blind spot, every mistake. The Krelak had ruled for centuries. They'd gotten comfortable. That made them easy to kill. The first security team rounded the corner just ahead. 6 soldiers in full exo-combat rig, each one a 7-foot-tall hybrid of muscle and augmentation. They saw a single Terran in their kill box and opened fire immediately, loosing a storm of plasma rounds. Kalen dived forward into a slide. He popped a drone disc mid-roll, and it biased upward behind him, deploying a temporary refractive field. The plasma barrage scattered wildly against it. Before the soldiers could recalibrate, Kalen was inside their formation. Too close, too fast. His blade ripped upward through the groin of the lead soldier and out the neck. The second dropped with a pistol round through the left eye. The third tried to activate a sonic blast collar. Kalen severed his arm at the elbow and kicked him back into his squad. 4, 5, 6. Dead. The hall was a massacre in seconds. Kalen didn't stop. His drone zipped back to his shoulder, recharging. He sprinted onward through the corridor junction, past a burning checkpoint, leapt over a half-sealed security door, and dropped into the cargo tram shaft below. He landed hard. 2 more squads had set up there, Krelak enforcers with scatter shields and repeater cannons. They opened fire before Kalen had even stood up. The shaft lit with explosions. Kalen used the blast wave, launched himself upward, flipped over the first squad's formation, and dropped a flashbang behind them. The explosion turned sight into white noise. Kalen killed 6 with headshots in under 4 seconds. The rest fired blindly. One accidentally shot his own squad leader. Kalen rammed a blade through the last survivor's neck and shoved him back into the tram rail just as an automated car screamed by. The body vaporized on impact. Kalen rolled his shoulders, kept moving. Phase 2. He cut down through the tram's floor grates and dropped into the sub-engine deck. Here the station's power matrix hummed. A vast jungle of cables, coolant veins, and flickering conduits. The air was thick with heat and static. He ducked behind a coolant pipe. 2 Krelak engineers spotted him. One reached for an alarm. Kalen fired once, through both skulls. They collapsed together. He moved toward the core panel, pulled a cracked drive from his belt, plugged it into the terminal. The Terran override worm activated. Data screens flickered. Emergency systems rerouted. Door controls reversed. Cameras went dark. Heat sinks disabled. The entire deck began to overheat. And the AI voice in the system chirped one word. Lockdown lifted. He stood. Above him, blast doors slid open. Kalen stepped into the fire. Upper decks, command floor. The officers of the Krelak Battle Division hadn't seen real combat in decades. Now they screamed as the executioner tore through their command floor like a god of violence let loose. Kalen came in through the ceiling duct, his drone melting a path with a localized acid charge. He dropped straight onto a captain's desk, drove his blade through the officer's sternum, and gunned down the 2 guards before they finished turning. The others tried to run. Kalen fired non-lethally, crippling them. He let them crawl, scream, bleed, not out of mercy, out of message. He activated the intercom, held down the speaker key. "This is Kalen Rowe," he said calmly. "Insignia code, executioner." His voice echoed across the entire station. "You took Earth's envoy, tortured him, broadcast his death. You thought we would beg." He walked across the floor, stepping over the dead. "But Earth doesn't send diplomats anymore." He raised his pistol and fired twice. 2 more officers slumped over their consoles. "We send retribution." He let go of the intercom. Minutes later, Hangar 5B. They thought they had him trapped. Kalen stood at the edge of the wide hangar platform. Fire and smoke billowed behind him. Above, massive airlocks hissed, and drop pods clanked into position. 30 soldiers blocked the only visible exit. Combat specialists, twin-link cannons, fortified armor. Their commander, a bone-plated veteran named Jurgith, stepped forward with a rail hammer and sneered. "You're cornered, Terran." Kalen looked past them, then back. "You brought 30, he said. Jurgith snarled. "And 30 more behind that." Kalen's eyes flicked to the rafters. Still not enough. Then the ceiling detonated. Terran orbital drones, black, silent, lethal, swarmed in through the breach, cutting through the station's outer plating like paper. They'd been waiting, jamming, tracking, shadowing the executioner's beacon since the mission began. The Krelak troops turned, too late. The drones opened fire. Sonic blades carved bodies in half. Pulse rounds slammed through armor like needles through silk. Kalen moved with the chaos. He used the distraction, slipping into the blind spots, finishing any soldier who survived the drone storm. He weaved death across the hangar floor, bullets and blade blurring together into one unstoppable rhythm. Jurgith made it 3 steps before Kalen shot his knees out, then walked over. The warhammer clattered to the floor. "You'll regret this," Jurgith coughed. Kalen crouched beside him. "No, you will." He slit his throat. 20 minutes later, outside the station, from a Terran stealth frigate orbiting nearby, cameras zoomed in on the battle station. They captured the scene in stunning resolution. Fire leaking from every seam. Black smoke rising into the stars. Explosions detonating in timed rhythm. And then, one final breach. The station's core split. And out drifted a single Terran figure, Kalen, armored, blood-stained, riding a drop tether through zero-G. Aboard the frigate, a young lieutenant looked up from his screen. "Sir, he did it." The admiral, gray-haired, steel-eyed, leaned in. "And the warlords?" The lieutenant hesitated, then swallowed. "All dead." The admiral nodded once. "Good. Record this." He turned toward the camera feed. Kalen drifted silently through the stars behind him, framed in the wreckage of an empire. "Broadcast it to every system on the Dominion's border. Show them what happens when you mock Earth." The lieutenant hesitated. "But, sir, they'll see the insignia. They'll know the executioner program still exists." "That's the point," the admiral said, voice like thunder. "Let them fear again." The footage hit the grid less than an hour later. No introduction. No watermark. Just raw, uncut terror in crystal clarity. 12 warlords slaughtered in their war chamber. Blood on relic stone. Screams echoing through high command frequencies. Then, a lone Terran, walking through smoke and ruin. His insignia glowing. Executioner. That one word did what no weapon ever had. It made the galaxy remember Faye. The Dominion tried to jam the signal. Too late. By the time they realized, the recording had bounced across 7 to 7 systems. Pirate feeds, diplomatic satellites, even civilian entertainment towers in neutral space. It played on loop in bars, bunkers, and trading hubs. It drowned out news cycles. It bent algorithms. It didn't matter how they spun it, because it wasn't propaganda. It was proof. Proof that Earth didn't send messages. It sent a man with a gun, a blade, and no forgiveness. And no one knew where he'd go next. Krelak territory, outer colonies. The silence hit first. Normally, comm traffic between colonies was a constant drone. Supply shipments, border patrols, minor threats. But after the footage aired, relay stations started going dark. Then freighters refused to dock. Then mercenaries pulled their contracts. Then the panic really began. Governor Roth of Sector 9 watched the footage in his throne room, mouth twitching. His advisors were dead quiet behind him. No one breathed. They didn't have to. They could all feel it. This wasn't a strike. It was a statement. And the worst part, the Terran didn't issue demands. No negotiations. No ultimatums. Because there was nothing to say. Only a message carved in corpses. You touched Earth. Now Earth touches back. Roth snarled and slammed his claw into the console. "Deploy the Rift Guard. Find him. I want him erased." But his voice cracked, because even he knew. You don't erase an executioner. You survive him. If you're lucky. Meanwhile, deep void, onboard the Ghost-class frigate Gravedust. Kalen sat alone in the drop chamber, armor stripped to the waist, chest wrapped in drying blood and bruises. He cleaned his blade with methodical calm, dragging a solvent cloth down the monomolecular edge until it gleamed again. Across from him, 2 men stood stiff. Both were young, clean armor, nervous eyes, twinks, Terran Special Recon cadets, chosen from the elite pool of precision operatives. Fragile in appearance, lethal in motion. One of them finally spoke. "So, did you really kill all 12 warlords alone?" Kalen didn't look up. "I killed the first one with a single shot," he said. "The rest killed themselves. They just took a while to die." The other twink exhaled. "And the vault breach? You were in the core systems less than 4 minutes after infiltration. How the hell?" Kalen raised his eyes, and both men went quiet. "You're not here to ask questions," he said. "You're here to learn how to finish the ones that crawl away." They nodded, fast. Kalen rose. "Good." Then suit up. The floor beneath them began to hum. An alert sounded, short, sharp, and final. "Target, Highborn Station, Krelak Signal Relay Gamma." Another war front. Another strike. Kalen reached down and strapped his blade to his back. then checked his sidearm, then opened the supply cabinet and threw each twink a weapon they'd never seen before. Outdated Terran models. No smart sensors. No energy indicators. No AI. Old school, one twink said, blinking. Kalen locked eyes with him. If you need lights to kill, he said, you're not ready. Highborn Station, Krelak Relay Outpost. The station wasn't prepared for visitors. Certainly not this kind. It started with a total blackout, Kalen's AI bomb detonating in the comm tower, frying every circuit linked to external surveillance. Then the emergency lights flickered. Then something moved in the dark. The first scream came from the mess hall. Security teams found the chef nailed to the ceiling, skinned from collar to rib. The second scream was cut short by a single, thunderous shot from the ventilation duct. By the time they sealed the blast doors, it was too late. Kalen was already inside. He moved through the command floor like a ghost with murder in his breath. The twinks followed close behind. Quiet, surgical, ruthless. They killed without sound, without hesitation. One used a wire garrote to decapitate a squad leader mid-sprint. The other stabbed two guards through the same eye socket in a blur of motion that didn't even look human. Kalen gave no orders. They knew the rhythm. Strike, move, cut, vanish. One hallway at a time. The station bled. Bodies piled. Blood pooled. Screams echoed into cold metal. And in the center of it all, Kalen. His pistol barked. His blade whispered. His expression never changed. He moved with the kind of precision you didn't train for. You were forged into it. The station commander locked himself in the central vault and activated a final broadcast to the Krelak High Council. Hey, the commander gasped, staring at the camera. Executioner. His brought more. They are smaller, faster, angrier. This is an extinction event. This is. The vault door buckled. Sparks flew. Then the blade punched through. Kalen stepped through the smoke, flanked by two blood-drenched twinks. He said nothing. The commander tried to raise a weapon. He didn't get the chance. The youngest twink shot him through the eye with a Terran revolver, then walked up and whispered, Executioner sends his regards. The camera feed cut out. Hours later, Outer Dominion Spire World. The High Council of the Dominion watched the footage in silence. All 12 of them. They didn't speak, because there was nothing left to say. The warlords were dead. Their vaults raided. Their battle stations smoldering. Their outer colonies falling without resistance. Earth had sent no ships, no fleets, no armies. Just one. And now, there were more. At least 2 more spotted on Highborn Station. Younger. Faster. The old legends were true. The executioner wasn't a myth. He was a system-wide punishment. A councilman broke the silence. What does he want? The chamber stayed quiet. Then another spoke. He hasn't asked for anything. He's not here for territory, or conquest, or treaties. They looked at one another, slow dread settling in. He's here because we broke something we weren't meant to touch. And the truth set in. There's no negotiating with vengeance. Back aboard the grave dust, Kalen stood on the observation deck, watching the stars drift like ghosts. One of the twinks stepped up beside him. You think they'll strike back? He asked. Kalen didn't answer right away. Then he said, Not yet. They are still bleeding. The younger man looked at him. Why did you bring us? Kalen exhaled slowly. Because Earth doesn't need more warriors. He turned to face them. His eyes were not kind. It wasn't hatred. It was clarity. It needs reminders. He tapped the insignia on his belt. Not a symbol. Not a name. A sentence. Anyone who hurts Earth, Kalen said softly, doesn't get forgiven. They get erased. And in the silence, the stars blinked. Like distant eyes, watching, waiting, knowing. The stars above Black Spire Prime were tinted red with dread. The Dominion's last true fortress sat in low orbit, ringed in defense fleets, orbital guns, and a full battle moon stacked with elite shock troops. Over 100,000 soldiers. 60 dreadnoughts. 18 warships. Every weapon the Krelak had ever built. And none of it mattered. Because they knew he was coming. Not with a fleet. Not with a flag. Just a dark dropship and a blade that never dulled. Kalen Rowe. The executioner. He didn't knock. He came through the upper hull of the battle moon like a missile. his pod smashing straight through a relay tower and detonating on Deck 14 with a quake that sent soldiers flying. He stepped from the wreckage already firing, already moving, already killing. The twin twinks followed, silent shadows wrapped in fury. Their faces were angelic. Their work was divine violence. Kalen didn't speak. Not to them. Not to anyone. He just advanced. Deck 14, 5 minutes in. The first wave tried to flank them with sonic grenades and hydraulic crush guns. Kalen cut through them like wire through flesh. His blade didn't glow. It didn't hum. It just tore and split and ended. A twink vaulted from cover and landed on an officer's back, driving a plasma knife through his ear canal. The other danced between bursts of gunfire, slipping into shadows and emerging behind a Krelak war leader to drive a bullet into the base of his skull at whisper range. The deck ran red. Not with chaos. With clarity. Kalen spoke once, over comms. Just one line. We don't kill soldiers. We kill beliefs. Command floor, 15 minutes in. The Dominion sector general stood behind a reinforced blast shield, eyes wide, teeth clenched. His aides were already dead. His elite guard team was vanishing from bioscanners one by one. Kalen was inside the building. The general checked his wrist. The countdown to orbital warp, 57 seconds. If he could hold. A whisper cut across the comm line. 57's too long. He turned. Kalen stood behind him. The shield hadn't been breached. The alarms hadn't triggered. But he was there. The general screamed. Kalen didn't raise a gun. Didn't draw his blade. He pressed one hand against the general's chest. The insignia burned there. Bright, gold, inhuman. Remember Earth? Kalen whispered. Then, he shoved, and the general's spine collapsed inward like wet ash. Outer hull, 18 minutes in. The Krelak flagship disengaged its anchor locks and began to flee. Kalen didn't chase it. He sent the younger twink. The boy nodded once and vanished into a drop shaft. 7 minutes later, the flagship's left reactor core imploded. No survivors. Kalen stood on the hull, coat whipping in the artificial wind. His eyes tracked the burning debris drifting through void. Behind him, the second twink whispered, You knew he wouldn't come back. Kalen didn't answer. The twink stepped forward, quieter. You trained us to be fast, lethal, efficient. A pause, but not to survive. Kalen's jaw clenched. I trained you to be a message. And in the dark of space, the war screamed in fire behind him. 12 hours later, Dominion Homeworld broadcast. They didn't know who sent the stream, but it appeared on every Dominion-registered system. No introduction, no music, just one wide shot. Kalen, standing in front of the shattered remains of the battle moon. Corpses behind him. Fires still burning. His voice was even, measured, unforgiving. There is no mercy in the insignia. The camera panned down. The second twink stepped into view, dragging something behind him. A body, charred, broken, recognizable by the shattered crest on his uniform. Dominion High Strategist Korvac. Still twitching. This man signed the death warrant of Earth's last diplomat. He laughed when we begged for the Envoy's release. Kalen crouched beside the body. Korvac coughed blood. Kalen leaned in. Earth doesn't beg anymore. He raised his blade and didn't cut the strategist's throat. He drove it slowly into his chest, holding his gaze the entire time. Korvac died silently. Let this be your new treaty, Kalen said. Let it stain your stars. Let it live in your son's memories. He stepped back, because we never forget who breaks Earth's peace. Then the feed cut to black. 2 days later, Galactic Diplomatic Assembly. There were no Dominion representative present. Not a single Krelak. No warlords. No envoys. Just the empty seats. And silence. Then the Terran ambassador stood. She was small, barely 5'3", dressed in plain black. She cleared her throat. The room listened. You mistook Earth's silence for surrender. You laughed when we said we preferred diplomacy. You thought we had no teeth. Now you've met what waits behind our words. She raised a single hand. A hologram appeared. Kalen, standing atop the Dominion moon. Blade in one hand, body in the other, covered in blood, unapologetic. The ambassador spoke again. Executioner was not our first choice. He is our last sentence. Then she turned and walked out. No one said a word. Unknown coordinates, outer rim. Kalen sat alone at a table in a dead system, watching two suns spiral around a black hole. The second twink sat across from him, quiet, gaunt, eyes sunken from too many days without sleep. Kalen handed him a drink. The boy didn't take it. I saw my face in the mirror this morning, he whispered. I didn't recognize it. Kalen didn't flinch. Good, he said. That means it's working. The boy looked up, confused. Hello. Kalen finished the drink himself, then looked toward the window, where dying stars blinked like silent screams. You wanted to fight, he said. Now you understand what we're really at war with. Memory. Kalen shook his head. No, mercy. He stood, because we don't get to have it. Final transmission, recovered from black spire debris. A short loop. 3 seconds. No audio. Just a flash of an insignia burned into the wall of the Dominion vault. Executioner. Then below it, written in blood. For every word you silenced, we left a body in return. And that was the end of the Dominion's myth of dominance. Not with a war, not with a treaty, but with one man, and the memory of what oath sends when its patience runs dry.